Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Kitty Hawk Town Council meeting to order. It's Monday, April 7th, 2025. It is 6:03 p.m. We're in the Smith Meeting Room at the Kitty Hawk Town Hall. As you can tell, we have a couple of empty chairs tonight. Councilman Tillett had a pre-planned visit trip planned with his family. That's where he needs to be. Councilman Hines is tied up. He's at a tourism conference board meeting in Hickory, North Carolina. So we still have a quorum. We can still vote on matters since we have 3 of the 5 here tonight. Those of you that are watching at home, I just found out we're still having some bandwidth problems with the internet. And we thought we had this fixed. I was told before the meeting we had it fixed. And like always, when we get ready for the meeting, it's messed up again. So I promise you we're working on it as we speak. Thank you for your patience bearing with us. If you're able to stand, please do so and join us in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Before we approve tonight's agenda, Jeff, do you have a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to approve the agenda with the correction under Item 8, New Business, Section A, Appointment Board of Adjustment, alternate member. This should read Appointment of Board of Adjustment, full member, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Jeff. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Charlotte. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Now, do I have a motion to approve tonight's amended agenda?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second?
Second.
Second, Charlotte. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. Public comment. Lauren, is there anyone signed up for public comment, please?
Do not have anyone signed up, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Is anyone here tonight would like to speak at public comment about any topic? Going. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Council, I need a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, please.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Jeff. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Charlotte. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Item 6, we had no items removed from the consent agenda. Item 7A, Council, we need to set a public hearing reference a special use permit for mini warehouses.
Mr. Mayor, I move to set a public hearing at the Town Council meeting on May 5th, 2025 to consider the proposed special use permit for a mini warehouse in the PCD location at 6100 North Croatan Highway.
Thank you, Jeff. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Charlotte. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Okay, item 8, we have the amended item that Councilman Pruitt talked about earlier. We have to make an appointment for the Board of Adjustment for a full-time member. Do we have a motion or a nomination?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to recommend and nominate Fran Dunn. She's lived in our town for many years, raised her children here, and she came in on her own and put in her application to serve our town.
Thank you, Charlotte.
So,
Charlotte, any further nominations? Would you like to make that in the form of a motion,
Yes.
Charlotte? Second?
Oh, second.
Second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Ms. Fran Dunn. And Lauren, if you'll make that notification tomorrow, we'd appreciate it very much. Item 9, old business. Casey, you're up, sir. Let's first talk about the White Street beach access.
All right, and we've got 2 parcels. I think you guys probably remember that from when we first brought it up. I think last meeting, Melanie, maybe it was on your agenda, or did we just bring it up in council session? Regardless, we've got 2 parcels, one being an oceanfront parcel that extends out in front of Kitty Dunes East subdivision. The other parcel was a parcel that we're calling the parking parcel, and that was a little further west off of the beach road with maybe I think one residential lot in front of it, between it and the beach road. Did title, first and foremost. We need to know that. There's two routes that we could, as a town, possibly go to obtain ownership, which, of course, one way or another, we need that if we're going to go out there and start improving it as a beach access and making the other parcel parking, whatever the case may be. And generally speaking, we could purchase it and or it could be donated to us. Still need the owner for either of those avenues. Or we could go and take it by eminent domain, because this is for a public purpose that, again, totally separate process in terms of the analysis, but it's a public purpose that if the town feels is necessary, if you guys as councilmen and councilwomen feel is necessary, then that's a potential avenue that we could go. Still, got to know who the owners are, because if we're taking that type of action, we'd have to file a legal act, file a legal complaint, serving all parties with interest in the property. So first and foremost, both parcels were actually shown on the plat as reserved. I was a little bit shocked to see that the oceanfront parcel was that way. When I was first looking at it, I just assumed it was going to be old platted lots in the subdivision on the oceanfront that the ocean took away, as we see so often. But no, actually it was just reserved, and the other was reserved for parking as well. It actually said this on the plat.
For Kitty Dunes?
Yep.
Okay.
And that's the interesting part. Yes, you would believe that it was solely for Kitty Dunes. I mean, that's what any document would lead you to believe, which would also lead you to believe that the developer would at some point deed the property over to a homeowners association or something of that nature, because it's common area for the benefit of all these owners. So didn't happen. Actually, what happened is Kitty Dunes Incorporated, not to be confused with Kitty Dunes Realty or Kitty Dunes Rentals, same folks involved, but different companies nonetheless, which is important, and I'll come back to why. But they held on, they never deeded it to any of the owners. Instead, they deeded it to another developer. Now, I don't know if it was a property management scheme or if that developer ended up finishing out the subdivision, but a developer by the name of, and they did quite a bit of work out here. So I think Anderson Stokes, yeah, that's what it was, Anderson Stokes, Inc. A Delaware company, also did some work on the eastern shore of Maryland. They received a deed to both parcels from Kitty Dunes, Inc., and they never conveyed it to anyone else. Now, I will note, however, that prior to that conveyance to this second, we'll call them developer company, Kitty Dunes, Inc. did reserve via covenant and via restrictions within deeds, or allowed to be reserved, granted the right of access and parking to all the owners within, I believe, Kitty Dunes East and South. So those owners do have a recognized property interest. All right, it's just not in the form of ownership. They have the right to use for a particular purpose: access to beach on the forward parcel, the oceanfront parcel, and parking on the ancillary parcel. So, of course, you go to find Anderson Stokes, good luck. But I was able to, after about 2 hours, track down through the SEC, things of that nature, the way the transactions occurred, and Long & Foster, which is a national realty company, ended up buying Anderson Stokes, and I was able to confirm it was from the owners at the time of those two particular parcels. So the good news there is that we've actually, not saying it'd be easy to deal with a company like that, but we've actually got ownership established. But we also know that we have owners in two particular subdivisions that, at a minimum at this point, that have easement rights over, at a minimum, that oceanfront parcel. And certainly to the parking as far as Kitty Dunes East and South. So if we were going to go and purchase, say, from Long & Foster, I think one thing that we would probably certainly could be met with is some form of attack that now we're opening this up for general public use. Their exclusive easement rights have now been taken, and maybe they do have some form of inverse condemnation argument. So in my advice, I won't go so far as to say advice right now, but certainly something worth considering is with all of these other property interests out there in the form of these easements, would it be better to go the route of eminent domain simply to make sure we foreclose on any and all rights that somebody may have to attack our ownership or ability to develop and use it at a later date? That obviously necessitates at some point deciding what reasonable values of the underlying ownership of the land is, plus any potential exclusive easement rights. But we've got the owners and we've got two options that we can pursue. So I'll stop there and ask for questions if you guys have any.
Council, you know, we brought this up at the last meeting. We're getting a lot of inquiries. I think Lauren has dealt with a lot of calls and emails here. People think the town owns it and want to know why we're not fixing it up like we have the other beach accesses, which look wonderful. But, so we've tried to convey that it's not our property. We can't do that. After what Casey has said, Jeff and Charlotte, any thoughts?
Eminent domain seems to be the cleanest. I was a broker with Kitty Dunes when all that happened, and when Anderson Stokes came down here and did that. And those property owners were definitely promised that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's
Yeah.
no doubt that they have a reserved right. It is an exclusive right. As let's say, as exclusive as in it's a private easement. It's not something that was intended to be used by the entire general public. So that provides them certainly with a property interest different from me, for example, who does not own within that subdivision. Right. And it's something to be considered, which is not just that. Are there other easements out there, which would obviously take an exhaustive title search, but are there other easements out there that the developer gave at some point in time to folks not a part of Kitty Dunes subdivision? Starkey, my law partner, has been practicing longer than I've been alive, of course, recalls distinctly that there are other potential subdivision owners out there outside of Kitty Dunes East or South that may have been granted an easement just for beach access over the course of time. So that also leads or tends to point you towards the route of eminent domain, which at least gets us a judicial decree of ownership.
And you're aware, right across the road on that corner, we could get maybe 7 or 8 parking spots right on the corner, but that's about it, which would help us just a little bit if we were to take possession.
It's not my thing to just take something, but,
I think if there was a way you could just reach out, see if they want to sell it.
Get us a price.
I don't, if nothing else, I think that would help us establish some form of value, which we need in the end game anyway, whether it's through I'm not saying
but if
that
they
would
were to
stand
sell
as the legal value, but
if you actually, instead of just taking it and you do buy it, then can you eminent domain it even after you purchase it?
as to other easement rights and things of that nature.
Right.
So I agree with you. Getting the underlying fee ownership
Right.
would put us in a more beneficial spot. I do agree with that. Absolutely.
Than just going right out, because that just doesn't look good. Everybody's going to say when they're coming after my vacant lot, you know. I certainly would want to offer, and then I would want to just see the repercussions, because I don't see it as a whole bunch of parking places. You know.
Right.
It seems like if it's going to cost hundreds of $1,000s in legal fees for 6 parking places, we might want to concentrate on doing like we did on other roads where we're seeking out easements and right-of-ways to expand on shoulders of the road, and, you know.
Right.
Was that a
And-
part of the evaluation, reevaluation? Was that,
The tax, you're talking about the taxes. I didn't even update since when they came out last week. I didn't look back to see
just-
if there was
just
any.
wondered.
But my understanding, I think, the way these things have been taxed, well, at least there's a potential, because if you go in and look, for example, on the parcel that is used for parking or was reserved for parking, there's been no tax bills paid for the last
Right.
X amount of years. Usually, when we see that, now I'd have to talk to the tax office to confirm, but usually what they'll do is, since there's no HOA, the tax office will actually take the value of the lot, the number of lots, or the value of that particular parking parcel, divide it up amongst the number of lots within the subdivision, and then kind of pass that value on pro rata to each owner, since they've got the easement rights over it. So it could even be that the Kitty Dunes subdivision owners have been paying as part of their tax bill, their pro rata share of those taxes. That's something I haven't confirmed.
And that's
yet,
what I
but-
was kind of thinking, it seems like to me it would have already been auctioned off somewhere.
Correct.
If that, somebody has been paying some taxes.
Yep, exactly.
Or-
But now, if you look on the tax, like I said, go check the tax history. Last 10 years, it's going to say no, they've not been paid. I agree with you, though. Even though they're minuscule, that at some point is going to hit the county's radar, and usually you'll see it
I
passed
think it
out.
just slipped through the cracks.
Because they also know that Anderson Stokes isn't going to pay it, because Anderson Stokes doesn't exist anymore. They were
They're
purchased
out of
and
Rehoboth
merged
Beach.
into some other company. So I mean, that is the way I see it done very often for tax office purposes. So, but to your point, I do think getting the ownership of the underlying fee, that doesn't cut off their easement rights, number one, but it puts us then dealing with easements as opposed to actual ownership. And moreover, if you logically think about it and practically think about the right of use, that exclusive right of use we're talking about, it's currently a dilapidated access.
for sure.
The benefit that the owners would perhaps receive from us just going in, maintaining it up to state standards and developing and putting a brand new access there.
Liability.
There's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be
They
said
may
for
want
that.
You basically have to have a four-wheel drive to park in there, there's,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can't just go up in there in a sports car.
Right.
It's limited to,
So
and
we
once
want to
again,
tell,
if a couple big trucks get up in there, then, it's so narrow.
Yeah.
That's it, that's fill it
So,
up.
I say if
But it was a
see if
great
they would
selling
like to
feature.
donate it or if they're willing to go, but I'm not for chasing a big condemning people's property and all that. If it was something different, like the Bonanza or whatever,
Sure,
that's been
sure.
that big piece of property and
Well,
they
that
were
too
willing
was
to-
based on-
and they were willing to sell like right there, then
And a lot of that was based on the safety of that
correct.
structure too.
Correct.
Not
It was,
the status
basically.
of the
Yeah,
structure.
well, there was people starting to take up residence in there, and so it was brought there by, so.
All right, do you have what you need, Casey?
I do, so reach out to the owners is what, and we're not talking easements right now, I'm talking about who I've determined to be the underlying
Mm-hmm.
fee owner. And we'll do that, I've got some contact information for them, so we'll start that process. No
Thank
problem.
you, thank you, thank you. Okay, Casey, back to you. You've done some background work on the live oak tree discussion.
I have,
And
yes,
before
yes,
the meeting, Mr. Garrity, a concerned citizen, has brought us some information too from the legislature. I think you have a copy of that too.
I do.
Casey, okay.
I do.
So if you would fill us in there, please.
So, and what Mr. Garrity's handed up, I found it as well, went through some of the bill summaries with it. What is difficult right now to determine, just because of the way our general legislature site our General Assembly's website will sometime operate, it appears that, there's no doubt that the bill, House Bill 496, that was presented back in 2021, there's no doubt that its goal was to restrict the ability of municipalities to regulate essentially trees, removing trees, cutting trees, adopting any kind of ordinance concerning trees on private property, all right? And the real notion behind it, recognizing that there were already other municipalities out there that had adopted tree removal, tree protection ordinances, they're often referred to. There was some exceptions put in, but even the exceptions to this particular general rule that cities can't do this was if you had explicit authority either from a state statute, meaning the state comes forward and adopts something. I guess an example of that would be itinerant merchants. So the folks who operate mobily in tents or in, food trucks, things of that nature. There's an explicit ordinance that says it's not a general police power. It is municipalities may regulate, restrict, prohibit, blah, 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 blah. And then it names something. Sexually oriented businesses comes to mind. So without a state statute that says municipalities can absolutely regulate trees on private property, number one, or a local bill that in our case we'd go petition for it, and it would say Kitty Hawk can regulate the cutting of removal of trees on private property because it has a local bill. But state doesn't have anything yet. So outside of some local bill, there's certainly an argument whether this bill passed or not, and everything that I read to include many of the cities out there, not all. Nags Head doesn't have a local bill. And there were several other in the report that don't have local bills necessarily, but there were a lot that did. And many of the articles I read were referring to situations where, yeah, it's okay for the municipality to do it if they have that express authority. So having said that, I believe, and Mr. Garrity's right. Also, he had mentioned to me prior to the meeting, this is not the last time it's coming up again. This type of language. This same year in 21, they tried to pass it as part of an omnibus bill, tried to throw it into the back of a budget bill, and we've seen that, certainly. That I think may have gotten scratched, but that was because somebody was paying attention. The bottom line here is, if we went to court right now, I feel as though we are not on most solid ground, because anytime I've seen bills such as this seeking to prevent things without explicit authority, the courts, there's a shift here in the way that the judiciary is looking at municipalities' rights, and express authority is something that shines in a lot of the cases that are out there right now. So without that, or without us, taking some move to go petition the state for some historic privilege registration, something of that nature, then our hands are tied outside of something in the public right of way, like on the street. If we wanted to regulate that, we can regulate that. Don't want to go so far as say we can get into the state right away, but certainly our right of ways. But inside and on the private property, even when you see it, it's blended in to our zoning somehow or another. This was a standalone bill that was proposed. In other words, it was just a bill that said tree protection, and we're going to stick it in this particular section of our ordinance. That is rarely done, is what I've read, but ultimately I think it comes down to the fact that we probably need a little something more from the state as far as the grant of authority before we could really take action that I would feel as though we're on solid footing for.
Can we just make a motion to adopt the live oak as our Kitty Hawk tree?
I don't see any problem with that.
And call it
I don't know if we should. Rob, is he here or did he skip? He may be better to speak as to whether or not that needs to come back as an actual agenda item.
Okay.
But can we do it? Yes, absolutely. Would I say that let's bring it back, on a future agenda? Yes.
I would prefer to do that when all council is here at the next meeting.
That's
Councilman
fine.
Hines called me and wanted me to relay, he is in favor of exactly what you said, Charlotte, but not in favor of going on someone's private property.
So instead of waiting to the next meeting to suggest that we go ahead and ask Rob to move ahead on designating the live oak as the Kitty Hawk Town tree.
Yeah, and have a presentation ready for us. at the
Right,
next
and
meeting.
then the full council will be here, they can vote on it, but, you know, is that, I'd like to make a recommendation to,
Do we need a motion?
No,
Yeah.
by consensus, you guys can give direction to town staff.
yeah, I'd like to
Along
make
those lines.
a recommendation for town staff to bring forth a proposal to make the live oak the Kitty Hawk Town
I
tree.
agree. Good, Charlotte. Jeff?
That's as far as
Lauren,
I
you
want
have
to
that?
go with it.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Casey.
Thanks for your hard work. Item 10, reports from town manager.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I just want to let everybody know spring chipping started today. Once the chipper passes through your neighborhood, it will not return. So make sure your stuff is out there. Just a reminder, the town does on-demand large item pickup. Visit the town's website or call town hall to schedule a pickup. Currently, Dare County is doing a pickup in unincorporated Dare. This does not include Kitty Hawk. So, if you put out items, and you live in Kitty Hawk, please visit the town's website or call us here at Town Hall so that we can make sure your items get picked up. And just a reminder, the on-demand large item pickup stops in May, I think it's May 20th, and will resume on September 20th. The bathhouse will be open on April 14th, and the porta potties at Bird, Luke, and Blariot will also be installed that day. Town offices will be closed in observance of Good Friday on April 18th. We were open for regular hours on Monday, April 21st. The police department is hosting their annual skate camp on Sunday, April 27th at the Kitty Hawk Park between 12 and 2. This is a free event and designed for kids between the ages of 6 and 13, but everyone is welcome. Please visit the Kitty Hawk Police Department Facebook page or contact the police department for more information and to register. I also would like to recognize Officer Aaron Nelson for being selected as the Officer of the Quarter. Officer Nelson is one of the longest serving and most proactive officers in the town and is stepping up to new challenges as field training officer and is interested in becoming a supervisor in the future. He is a good listener, open to and identifying opportunities for improvement and trying to devise plans to implement positive things. And we're lucky to have him on our team. And finally, police station progress update. The construction of the police station is progressing well with noticeable improvements both inside and outside. On the exterior, the concrete work is nearly finished and preparations will soon begin at the gate area for the curb and island cut. Once this step is complete, final grading for asphalt will take place. Within the next 10 days, the Dominion Power will be on site to establish power for the building and connect the cable to the conduit for the lights in the rear parking lot. After these connections are made, the building will have electricity and be climatized. Additionally, the fuel tank for the generator has been installed and the generator itself is going in this week. Inside, the installation of interior finishes is underway. The ceiling grid is being put in and the tile work in the bathrooms is nearly complete. In the coming weeks, lighting fixtures will be installed and the drywall will be prepared for painting and finishes. The majority of the network cabling is complete and the remaining work will be finished after painting and flooring are completed and the electricity is operational. The project continues to be on budget.
Good, thank you, Melody.
That's all.
Great report, thank you. Casey?
I'm not, Mayor. I've talked enough. Good to go.
All right, Charlotte?
We've just been through an extensive budget planning meeting, and I am very, very proud of our department chairman and our town staff. We really talked about a lot of good stuff, so I'm very proud of what we accomplished.
Thank you, Charlotte. Jeff?
That was exactly what I was going to say.
I got you this time.
But once again, thanks everybody. Liliana, thank you for all your hard work putting it together. And once again, all the department heads. And we've worked very hard to try to come up with a budget that fits our town.
Well, that's exactly, I've got written budget meeting down here.
Calling on you first.
A lot of good hard work by council, a lot of good hard work by the department heads, Liliana, great work. And council, we looked at our needs versus our wants, and I think we made some great decisions here. So thanks to council, thanks to everyone. Anything else, council? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Motion made by Jeff, second.
Second.
Second. Charlotte, all in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.